I found my daughter, my sweet, innocent 4-year-old, shivering uncontrollably on Christmas Eve. Not in our warm home, surrounded by gifts and cheer, but outside, in the biting winter air, pressed against the cold brick wall of my fiancé's family home. Inside, I could hear the muffled sounds of laughter, the crackle of a roaring fireplace, and the clinking of celebratory glasses. His family, my soon-to-be in-laws, were celebrating, completely oblivious, or perhaps uncaring, that my child was out there, freezing. I stood there, a pit forming in my stomach, clutching the flimsy blanket I'd brought, my mind racing. Was I wrong for what I did next? Tell me, honestly, if you would have done the same thing. This story, this nightmare, started like many others do, with love, or what I thought was love. I met Mark 2 years after my divorce from my daughter Lily's father. Lily was just 2 then, a bright-eyed, curious toddler who was my entire world. Mark was charming, attentive, and seemingly adored Lily. He had a stable job, a nice house, and a family that, at first glance, seemed warm and welcoming. His parents, Robert and Susan, were outwardly jovial, though I always detected a slight frostiness beneath Susan's overly sweet facade. Mark also had 2 younger sisters, Sarah and Emily, both in their late 20s, who seemed friendly enough, if a little preoccupied with their own lives. We dated for a year, and it was a whirlwind of romantic dinners, weekend getaways, and seemingly endless laughter. He was everything I thought I wanted, everything I thought Lily and I deserved after the heartbreak of my previous marriage. He'd bring Lily little gifts, read her bedtime stories, and even helped me navigate the difficult world of single parenting. I thought I'd found my fairytale ending, a stable, loving family for my daughter and me. The proposal was beautiful, a quiet evening at home, just the 3 of us, with Lily giggling as Mark got down on one knee. It felt perfect. I said yes without a moment's hesitation, believing with all my heart that our future was finally secure. The subtle cracks in that perfect facade began to show shortly after we announced our engagement. It started with small comments, almost imperceptible at first. Susan would joke about Lily being a little wild or needing more discipline even though Lily was, by all accounts, a well-behaved child. Sarah and Emily would often talk about their own future children, subtly emphasizing how important it is for children to have both parents from the start. I tried to brush it off, attributing it to typical family dynamics, maybe a touch of awkwardness around a new family member. Mark, when I mentioned it, would always assure me it was just how they are, and that they'll come around. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. The biggest red flag, in hindsight, was their unwavering adoration for Mark's nephew, Thomas, who was Sarah's son, also 4 years old. Thomas was undoubtedly a cute kid, but the difference in how he was treated versus Lily was stark. Every achievement, no matter how small, was celebrated with pomp and circumstance for Thomas. If Lily did something similar, it was met with a polite nod, or sometimes, a completely ignored response. My daughter, usually so outgoing and happy, began to retreat a little whenever we were at Mark's parents' house. She'd cling to my leg, her bright smile dimming. I tried to make excuses for them, telling myself they just didn't know Lily as well, that given time, they would see the amazing, intelligent, loving child she was. As Christmas approached, the tension grew. Mark's family had always hosted Christmas Eve at their large, beautifully decorated home. It was a tradition, and this year, as the soon-to-be wife and stepmother, I was expected to be a part of it. I was excited, hoping this festive occasion would finally melt away any lingering ice. I spent weeks picking out the perfect gifts for everyone, including thoughtful, age-appropriate presents for Thomas and, of course, a stack of magical toys for Lily. Lily, too, was ecstatic. She'd been counting down the days, talking about Santa and the magic of Christmas. I dressed her in her favorite velvet dress, with tiny sparkly shoes, and tied her hair up with a festive ribbon. She looked like a little angel, her face glowing with anticipation. We arrived at Mark's parents' house, and it was a scene right out of a holiday movie. Twinkling lights, a huge tree laden with ornaments, the scent of pine and cinnamon filling the air. The family was all there, gathered in the living room around a crackling fire. Greetings were exchanged, somewhat warmly, and I ushered Lily towards the other children, hoping she would make friends with Thomas and a couple of other cousins who were there, but almost immediately, things went awry. The kids were playing with some new toys near the fireplace. Lily, being a child, naturally gravitated towards Thomas's new remote control car, a shiny red sports model. She reached out to touch it, her eyes wide with wonder. Thomas, who was often a bit possessive, immediately snatched it away and shoved her. Lily stumbled back, startled, but before I could even react, Sarah, Thomas's mother, swooped in. "Lily, honey, that's Thomas's new car. You have to ask before you touch other people's things," she said, her voice dripping with a sweetness that didn't quite reach her eyes. She then turned to Thomas with a smile. "Good job, Tommy, protecting your new toy." My blood ran cold. Lily looked up at me, her lower lip trembling. I knelt down, trying to reassure her, telling her it was okay, and that we could find something else to play with. Mark's parents, Robert and Susan, watched the interaction, but said nothing, simply offering polite, strained smiles. This was the start of a pattern for the evening. Every time Lily tried to join in, or even just exist in the same space as Thomas, she was subtly, or not so subtly, pushed aside or reprimanded. If Thomas threw a tantrum, he was coddled. If Lily so much as whined, she was given a stern look and told to be a big girl. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash, my heart aching with every slight against my daughter. I kept glancing at Mark, trying to catch his eye, hoping he would see what was happening, hoping he would intervene. He just kept making small talk, laughing with his family, occasionally offering me a quick, dismissive smile. It felt like I was invisible, and worse, like Lily was invisible to him. Around dinner time, the tension escalated. The adults were enjoying their festive meal, discussing family anecdotes and future plans, mostly ignoring the children who were supposed to be eating at a smaller table in the corner. Lily, feeling isolated and ignored, started to fidget. She accidentally knocked over her glass of milk, sending a white spill across the tablecloth. The room went silent. Susan gasped dramatically. "Oh, Lily, look what you've done," she exclaimed, not unkindly, but with a definite air of exasperation. "Honestly, Mark, your daughter is quite clumsy." My cheeks burned. Before I could defend her, Mark, my fiancé, my supposed partner, simply sighed. "Lily, really? You need to be more careful," he said, his voice laced with annoyance. No one asked if she was okay, or offered comfort. Just blame. Lily's eyes welled up with tears, and she mumbled an apology. I felt a fierce protectiveness surge through me. I reached for her hand, trying to offer silent comfort. Later, when it was time for presents, the disparity was even more glaring. Thomas received an avalanche of gifts, expensive toys, video games, clothes. Every gift was met with oohs and ahs from the family. When it was Lily's turn, she received a few modest gifts from us and Mark, and a couple of small, generic items from his parents and sisters, a coloring book, a small doll. The enthusiasm was noticeably absent. My daughter, still trying her best to be cheerful, politely thanked everyone, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes. It broke my heart. The final straw, the moment that shattered my perception of this family and my future with Mark, happened later that evening. The adults were still gathered by the fireplace, sipping eggnog, listening to Christmas carols, their faces flushed with warmth and good cheer. Lily, worn out from the emotional roller coaster of the day, was quiet. She had asked me earlier if she could go outside to look at the Christmas lights, but I told her it was too cold. I thought she had understood. So, there I was, caught in a polite but utterly draining conversation with Mark's aunt, when I realized I hadn't seen Lily for a few minutes. A knot of unease tightened in my stomach. I excused myself and began to search. I checked the children's play area, the dining room, the kitchen. No Lily. Panic began to set in. I called her name, my voice growing louder with each unanswered echo. Mark, seeing my distress, finally looked up. "What's wrong?" he asked, a hint of irritation in his tone. "I can't find Lily," I whispered, my voice trembling. He shrugged. "She's probably just hiding. Kids do that." But I knew my daughter. She wouldn't just hide on Christmas Eve. My heart pounded in my chest. I rushed to the back door, a terrible premonition washing over me. And there she was, curled into a tiny ball against the cold brick wall of the house, next to a frosty window, her little velvet dress offering no protection against the December chill. She was shivering violently, her lips blue, her small body trembling. Her face was streaked with tears, and her eyes, when she looked up at me, were filled with a profound sadness and fear. She had gone outside, trying to get away from the overwhelming, unwelcoming atmosphere inside. She had tried to look at the lights, just like she'd asked, but had gotten too cold, too scared to come back in. So that's the situation I was in, my heart ripped open, my daughter freezing outside while his family laughed inside. And I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have confronted them calmly, or would your protective instincts have taken over? I stood there, for what felt like an eternity, Lily's tiny, shivering body in my arms. Her teeth were chattering, and she was crying silently, her little frame shaking with cold and fear. The warmth of the house, the sound of their laughter, it all felt like a cruel mockery. A red-hot rage, unlike anything I had ever felt before, surged through me. My beautiful, innocent child, ignored, dismissed, and now left out in the cold, while the very people who were supposed to welcome her into their family sat comfortably, oblivious. The carefully constructed facade of my perfect future with Mark shattered into a million pieces. In that moment, I knew with absolute clarity what I had to do. I carried Lily back inside, bypassing the main living room, and went straight to the guest bedroom where our coats and her overnight bag were. I bundled her into her warmest coat, wrapped a scarf around her neck, and pulled a hat over her ears. She was still shivering, but the warmth of the room and my focused actions seemed to calm her a little. I packed her few gifts, ignoring the expensive presents from Mark's family that sat untouched. Then, with Lily firmly clutched in my arms, I walked back into the living room. The festive chatter died down as I entered, my face, I imagine, a mask of fury. Mark looked at me, a question forming on his lips, but he never got to ask it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shout. My words were delivered in a low, controlled tone, each one carefully chosen to cut through their self-congratulatory bubble. I just found my daughter, Lily, shivering outside by your window, I announced, my gaze sweeping across each of their faces, Susan, Robert, Sarah, Emily, and finally, Mark. While you all sat here, warm by the fire, laughing, enjoying your Christmas Eve, my 4-year-old child was freezing, alone, and terrified. The room was utterly silent. Their smiles faded, replaced by stunned, guilty expressions. Sarah gasped, putting a hand over her mouth. Susan looked away, her face paling. She went outside because she felt unwelcome, because she was ignored and pushed aside all night, just like every other time we've been here. I continued, my voice gaining a quiet intensity. You all claim to be such a loving family, but you couldn't even extend basic human warmth to a child. My child. And Mark. I turned my gaze to him, his face a mixture of shock and defensiveness. You stood by and watched it happen. You said nothing. You did nothing. His mouth opened, as if to protest, but I didn't give him the chance. This, I gestured vaguely around the opulent room, this is not a family I want to be a part of. And this, I looked down at Lily, who was now clinging to me, her face buried in my shoulder. This is not the kind of treatment my daughter deserves. Not now, not ever. I didn't wait for a response, an apology, or an excuse. I didn't need one. My mind was made up. We're leaving, I stated, my voice firm and unwavering. And we won't be coming back. Not to this house, and certainly not to this family. I turned on my heel, pulling Lily tighter against me, and walked out of the house without another word. I could hear Mark calling my name, a panicked edge to his voice, but I didn't stop. I got into my car, strapped Lily safely into her car seat, and drove away, leaving behind the twinkling lights and the hollow laughter. The drive home was a blur of tears, mine, not Lily's, as she had finally drifted off to sleep, exhausted. I called my sister, explained everything in a torrent of angry, heartbroken words, and she was there for us, offering comfort and a warm bed. The next day, Christmas morning, was difficult. Lily was still a little subdued, but the magic of the presents we had bought, and the love from my sister and me, slowly brought her smile back. Mark called, texted, emailed, pleading, apologizing, promising things would change. He even came to my sister's house, begging me to reconsider, to not ruin Christmas because of a misunderstanding. I looked at him, truly looked at him, and saw not the charming man I had fallen in love with, but a man who had chosen his family's comfort over my daughter's well-being. There was no misunderstanding, Mark, I told him, my voice devoid of emotion. I saw what happened. Lily felt it. You chose. And so did I. It's over. He left, defeated. The aftermath was painful but ultimately liberating. Breaking off the engagement meant dealing with the questions, the judgment from some, but the relief I felt was immense. My daughter was safe, truly safe, from a family that had no place for her. Mark's family, predictably, never reached out, never apologized. Their silence confirmed everything I had suspected. It was a clear demonstration that their love and acceptance were conditional, and my daughter simply didn't meet their unspoken requirements. We spent a quiet Christmas and New Year with my sister and a few close friends, surrounded by genuine warmth and love. Lily slowly regained her usual sparkle, her laughter echoing freely once again. This experience taught me a profound lesson about priorities and the fierce, uncompromising love a mother has for her child. No man, no family, no perceived perfect future is worth sacrificing your child's emotional or physical safety. My only regret is not seeing the warning signs sooner, not trusting my gut instincts. But I learned, and Lily, I believe, learned that she is loved, cherished, and protected above all else. So, was I wrong for what I did? For walking away, for choosing my child over a relationship I thought was my forever? I don't think so. I would do it again in a heartbeat. Like this video if you were on my side, if you believe a mother's instinct should always be trusted. Subscribe for more stories like this, where real people share their raw, emotional experiences. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Tell me if you've ever had to make such a difficult choice for your children. I'll see you all in the next story.